My best friend has disappeared.
Tony Soprano ran a crew where his best friend wore a wire for 2 years.
But I think he's got a drug problem, heroin.
His heir apparent became a heroin addict who didn't notice his own girlfriend was an FBI informant.
Universal remote.
His longest-serving soldier nearly started a war with the Russian mob over a universal remote. And somehow, Tony is not the problem here. Or is he? Because The Sopranos isn't just a show about a mob boss having panic attacks. It's one of the sharpest case studies in organizational collapse ever put on television. And at the center of it is a question nobody on the show can answer honestly. Was Tony Soprano a good boss? Stuck with the worst crew in America?
You got no fucking idea what it's like to be number one.
Or was the crew a disaster because of the boss? Let's get something out of the way first.
The best is over.
Tony Soprano did not inherit a thriving empire. He inherited a mess. The very first episode tells you everything.
All across the board. We used to be recession-proof.
Junior Soprano sits across from Livia and asks a question that hangs over the entire series. Who would even want the job these days? And he's right. By the time Tony takes the big chair, the American mafia is in free fall.
He's wired for sound.
The FBI has an entire playbook built around flipping low-level guys by threatening their families. Detective Makazian spells it out. What does Pussy love more than anything? His family. And that's exactly what the feds go after. The walls aren't just closing in, they're already closed.
Yeah, I know. It's all changing.
But it's not just law enforcement. The entire world has moved on. There's a scene where Patsy Parisi tries to shake down a Starbucks-style coffee shop, and the manager just shrugs. He can't pay protection money even if he wanted to. That decision goes up to corporate. Think about that.
It's over for the little guy.
The entire business model of neighborhood extortion is dead because the neighborhood is owned by a company in Seattle. Patsy stares out at the changing storefronts and says something that might be the most honest line in the whole series. It's over for the little guy. He's not just talking about the coffee shop owner. He's talking about himself, about all of them. DNA evidence, cell phone records, forensic accounting.
I gotta write a report on DNA for biology.
Even AJ mentions it casually at the dinner table in season 1, rambling about DNA, and nobody in that family realizes how much that one detail is going to change everything. So Tony is boss of a dying organization. His revenue streams are drying up, his soldiers are getting picked off by the feds.
No, the RICO statutes.
Oh.
And every year the tools the government has get sharper, while his crew gets dumber. That's the hand he's dealt. The question is, does he play it well?
Phone calling cards.
Actually, ever hear of HUD?
Here's what people forget when they call Tony a bad boss. The man could make money, and in the mob, that's the job. Everything else is decoration. Tony understood the HUD scam. He saw opportunity in calling card fraud, phony MRI billing, construction kickbacks. While his crew was stuck thinking about the old ways, bust ahead, collect the envelope,
Garbage business is changing.
Tony was adapting. Not perfectly, but he was trying. He also knew where to put people.
Ralphie's star is rising.
Ralph Cifaretto was a violent, unpredictable sociopath. Tony hated him, genuinely. But he gave Ralph the Esplanade construction project anyway, because Ralph was the best earner. That's not emotion. That's management. At least temporarily. And look at what he held together.
I get it, okay? My uncle tried to kill me.
His own uncle tried to have him killed.
My mother tried to have me whacked.
His mother greenlit a hit on her own son.
Tony B took out Billy Leotardo.
His cousin Tony B went off the reservation and murdered a made man from New York. Half his crew was wearing a wire at one point or another.
Acting boss.
His consigliere collapsed after 5 days of actually running things. Any one of those crises would end most bosses. Tony survived all of them in the same decade. But here's the thing people really overlook. Compare Tony to the alternatives the show gives us.
Junior, why don't you take a larger hand in things?
Junior? Brilliant strategist who ended up as a puppet manipulated by a 70-year-old woman in a retirement home.
Family. Time was, it would have been great for us to have John as the boss.
Johnny Sack? A sharp operator who let his emotions about a joke regarding his wife's weight nearly destroy an alliance. Phil Leotardo? A man so consumed by old-school principles that he won the war against Jersey and still managed to get himself killed because he refused to just whack Tony when he had the chance. Because Tony was technically a boss. Phil's head getting crushed by that SUV? That's not just the death scene. That's a metaphor. The old ways, the traditions, the code, they don't protect you. They get you killed. So by comparison, Tony's actually not bad. He's pragmatic where others are rigid. He adapts where others cling to a world that doesn't exist anymore. But comparison is a dangerous game because not the worst is not the same thing as good.
I drove to work with my nephew, Christopher.
Now let's talk about the other side, because Tony's defenders love to blame the crew. And sure, his crew is terrible, but who built that crew? Who chose those people? Who mentored them? Or more accurately, who didn't? Let's start with the most obvious one.
Taking care of this Christopher Moltisanti.
Christopher Moltisanti, Tony's hand-picked successor, his surrogate son, and Tony's mentorship of Christopher is basically non-existent. He gives him responsibility without guidance, promotes him without preparing him, and then, when Christopher tries to get sober, Tony actively undermines it, mocks him for it, joins in when others bully him about it. Tony doesn't just fail to develop Christopher, he sabotages him. Then there's Ralph. Yes, Tony put him on the Esplanade. Smart move. But he also killed Ralph over a horse.
The horse was no fucking good.
The family's biggest earner, gone. Not because of betrayal, not because of a strategic threat, because of a racehorse named Pyomai. You can argue Ralph deserved it. The man killed a pregnant woman outside a strip club, but Tony didn't kill him for that. He killed him for the horse. That's not leadership. That's impulse. And it's a pattern. Tony beats Zellman with a belt out of jealous spite, straining a productive business relationship. He ignores Pussy's suspicious behavior for months because they're childhood friends. He promotes Polly despite everyone knowing Polly is incompetent at anything beyond intimidation, because Polly was loyal when Tony was young. Bobby Bacala? Capable, level-headed. Tony ignored him for years and only promoted him because Bobby married his sister. Patsy Parisi? A true professional, consistently passed over. The man had to accept that Tony ordered the death of his twin brother and still showed up to work every day. That's loyalty that Tony never rewarded. Here's the pattern. Tony makes decisions based on feelings, promotes based on nostalgia, punishes based on mood, and the one job that actually matters for any leader, developing the next generation, he completely ignores. There's a moment early in the series. Christopher comes to Tony and asks for just a little recognition, some acknowledgement, and Tony's response is to nearly attack him in public. That moment is a roadmap for every problem that follows. Because when the people under you don't feel valued, they stop being loyal, and Tony's crew stopped being loyal a long time ago. As one commenter put it perfectly, having a crew of disloyal idiots makes you a bad boss. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the genius of The Sopranos isn't just that Tony's crew falls apart, it's why they fall apart. And the answer is generational. There's a pattern you see in immigrant families, in empires, in every organization that lasts long enough. The first generation fights and bleeds to build something. The second generation, who saw that struggle up close, takes it seriously. They build on the foundation. They climb. But they overcompensate for what they lacked growing up, and they spoil their children. So the third generation inherits the stories without the scars. They know the mythology of the struggle, but have no experience of it, and they fall apart. The Sopranos maps this perfectly.
Let this be a lesson to you. A man honors his dead.
The old guard, guys like Johnny Soprano, the original Dickie Moltisanti, Jackie Aprile Sr., they were the builders, hard men who understood the reality. Tony's generation is the second wave. They took the foundation and ran with it, made money, got comfortable, and then what? Look at the next generation.
You told me you were going to go to college, then I got to hear from Krista.
Jackie Jr. is at Rutgers. He has a path out, but he romanticizes the life his father lived and ends up playing gangster until it kills him.
I drink water, Bevilacqua. You know what happened to Christopher Moltisanti?
Matt Bevilacqua and Sean Gismonti are left to their own devices, treated like errand boys, and they do exactly what unsupervised idiots do. They try to prove themselves in the dumbest way possible.
Now is an actual roster of who stayed.
A Jay Soprano can barely function as a human being. Vito Jr. is a disaster.
Every night I come home from work.
And then there's one exception, Little Carmine. Think about that. The son of the most powerful boss in New York.
The fuck, Carmine?
And what does Little Carmine do? He carefully, slowly backs away from the life. He takes the money and the connections, but refuses the throne.
Little Carmine. It's common knowledge the guy's retarded.
Everyone on the show laughs at him for his malapropisms and his seeming stupidity, but Little Carmine is alive at the end. He's rich. He's free. He might be the smartest character in the entire series. Meanwhile, there's one younger guy who actually gets it right, Benny Fazio. He understands something the others don't. Being a mafioso is a job. Not a romance, not an identity, a job. He stays calm, avoids the drugs, follows orders, makes mistakes, sure, The credit card scam at Artie's restaurant was dumb, but when Tony tells him to drop it, he drops it. No ego, no drama. The difference? Benny is just young enough that he never caught the tail end of the golden age. He doesn't have that romanticized view. He's practical, where Christopher was a dreamer. It's the same cycle you see everywhere. Marcus Aurelius was one of Rome's greatest emperors. His son Commodus nearly destroyed it. Good times create soft men who create hard times. The Sopranos understood that cycle. It's baked into every generation the show portrays. So, was Tony a good boss? Here's the answer nobody in this debate, and nobody on the show, wants to admit. The question itself is wrong.
Your uncle resents that you're the boss.
Tony wasn't a good boss or a bad boss. He was the boss. The only kind of boss that world could produce at that moment in time. The mob didn't decline because Tony was flawed. Tony was flawed because the mob was declining. When the entire system is rotting, you don't get great leaders, you get survivors. And Tony, for all his panic attacks and impulsive murders and terrible emotional regulation, he survived longer than almost anyone else in that world.
Well, that's not good.
People misinterpret. They think you're weak. They see an opportunity.
But surviving isn't leading, and that's the tragedy. Tony kept the ship floating. He made people money. He navigated crises that would have destroyed anyone else. But he never built anything that could outlast him. He never mentored the next generation. He never created loyalty, only fear. And when he's gone, what's left? Polly eating alone at Satrial's?
I've lost 2 dear friends.
A decimated crew? An empire that was never really an empire at all? That's the thesis of The Sopranos. Not that the mob boss was bad at his job, but that the job itself was already dead. Tony was the best possible manager of an inevitable decline, and that might be the most depressing thing anyone has ever said about a TV character. He was a great wind that carried the whole family across the sky. But even great winds die. The Sopranos understood something most shows about power never figure out. That sometimes the best boss in the room is still not good enough.
You people are fucked.
And that the real enemy isn't the FBI or New York or a disloyal crew. It's time. So here's what I want to know from you. If you had to pick one character from the entire show to actually run the DeMeo family, not just survive, but actually reverse the decline, who would it be? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this kind of deep dive is your thing, you're going to want to see the next one. Just subscribe.